Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Clyburn. I'm one of the school counselors at Columbia High School. I will let my fellow panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll get started with our presentation.
Good evening, everyone. I am Tracy Morrison, the wonderful and excited senior class vice principal. We're excited to be with you this evening. This is going to be a great year, and we look forward to sharing in this milestone moment with you.
I'm Madeline Tugetman. I'm the president of the Columbia High School Scholarship Fund.
I'm Danielle Mooney Chavez, one of the school counselors here at Columbia High School.
Okay, so we are so excited to join you this evening. We have a lot of information to go over. As Ms. Mooney Chavez mentioned, this presentation will be recorded. And to be respectful of people's time, we will begin. Ms. Mooney Chavez, if you share the presentation. And okay, so I'm seeing from one person in the chat, they're saying that they can't hear. Can everyone else hear us? Okay, I'm seeing some say yes, some say no. For those that can't hear, just you may need to adjust things on your end. You may want to also come back in and just make sure that your speakers are turned up. Okay, so in addition to this night that we have, we will also have a few other nights that we'll be discussing other grade level information. So I believe, just bear with me, let me just grab my calendar. So next week on September 18th will be the freshman parent night that will also be virtual, and that will be at 7 p.m. And then on September the 25th at 7 p.m. will be the junior parent night. And then on, let's see, on October 9th will be the sophomore parent night. And then we will have a financial aid night that will be, just give me a second to see if I can find. So we'll get the information about the financial aid night, but it's also going to be also on a Wednesday night and 7 p.m. Okay, so we're just working to get our presentation shared. Oh, here we go. Thank you, Ms. Mooney Chavez. Oh, here we go. Parent nights. Okay, and the financial aid night will be on the 14th of October. All right, so I would like to welcome Madeline, who is our CHS Scholarship Fund representative, and Madeline will share a lot of great information with us about the Scholarship Fund and some other things. Madeline, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm Madeline Tugetman. I'm the president of the Columbia High School Scholarship Fund. We are an all-volunteer nonprofit organization whose mission is to provide need-based scholarships to Columbia High School seniors and graduates. The scholarships that the students can receive can be used toward any 2 or 4-year college, trade, technical, and certificate programs. They are renewable for as long as the student is continuing with their education. Our website, chssf.org, has all of our information as well as an application that you can fill out online, but it needs to get mailed to our P.O. box. Applications are due right after income tax day. Last year, for this September, for this school year, the current school year, CHS awarded $265,000 to 142 seniors and returning graduates. So you may need us. Check out our website. We will be in the school the first week of March to hand out applications and answer any student questions. If you have a question, you can ask it through our website. Congratulations on having a senior. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Madeline. So one of the things that I really enjoy about Columbia High School, I believe, is that we really try to take care of our own. And to that end, Cougar Cares is a community run through our school organization where we do lots of things to try to support our fellow Cougars in the school community. So some of the things that we do and some of the things that Cougar Cares does is we make sure that every student, every senior who wants to participate in an event, we really try to make sure that we make it happen for them. So we really try to make sure that there are funds available for things like prom shop. We offer, one of the great things that we do is we offer snacks. And for us, it's great because it allows us to get to be able to see students who may not necessarily stop in all the time, but they're hungry, they stop in, we have conversations. So Cougar Cares is an excellent organization. And so the information, if you would like more info about how to help out or volunteer, then please see and contact Cougar Cares at the email below. All right, so HSA is the parent run organization, homeschool association at Columbia High School. Obviously, most of the other schools in the district also have an HSA program. Please make sure that you become a member of the Columbia HSA. They do wonderful things, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of support. It takes a lot of hands on deck. So please just make sure that, if you aren't already a member, that you please join. Joining also allows you to receive e-blasts about some of the events that are happening. So please make sure that you get that information when you sign up. Also, if your student is eligible for free and reduced price lunch, very important for students to sign up. Obviously, the free and reduced lunch, if students are needed, is great, but there's so many other benefits and so many other resources that come along with students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, and helping out with different things like application fees and standardized testing fees and things like that. So if you aren't sure, fill out the application, and then folks will let you know if that's a resource that you're eligible for or not. Okay, so with the beginning of the year brings a lot of times, I know for me, if I haven't necessarily been online all summer, and so sometimes we kind of forget like passwords and things like that. So for students, if they have any issues with their PowerSchool or with the Canvas, then they're going to reach out to Mr. Cosgrave, one of our librarians, and he'll make sure that he assists them in retrieving password information, or if there's any questions they have about Canvas. For parents who may have issues with PowerSchool, please make sure we have an email address, parentportalhelp@somsd.k12.nj.us. And it's very important to make sure that if you're a parent that you're aligned with PowerSchool and that you're following your students' progress. As a partnership is very important. as much as you know, we know, and we can work together to make sure that your student is successful. All right, next slide. Okay, so CHS counseling for this year. We have our website, which we've had for a couple of years running now. I think it's an excellent resource. I think that in some cases, it might be a little bit underutilized by parents in the community. So hopefully you can find our website through the CHS website. You can find the counseling portal through the CHS website. Please make sure that you check Power School for counselor assignments. As people know, we've had some shifting within our department. For students who were ninth graders last year, if your students were with Ms. Fleming or with Ms. Murphy, then that means that they were assigned to a 10 through 12th grade counselor. So please make sure you check out that information. Also, as many of you know, we've lost 2 positions within our counseling department. So please make sure, particularly if your students were with Ms. Johnston or with Ms. Cortez last year, please make sure that you check for the counseling assignment to see who your student has been reassigned to. For a lot of us, although right now we were experiencing a tremendously high volume of emails, but once course requests and schedule requests sort of change requests die down, then you'll be able to reach us through email. This is a little bit different for us this year, being not having 2 people. And so that means that those students, I guess it probably would be about 300, 400 some odd students are redistributed among the 6, 10 to 12 counselors. We don't have a director this year. So we are, it's different this year, and we're trying to, really make sure that we continue to give the resources and support that a lot of you have come to depend on and rely on, and that we love giving. But we're just going to need a little bit of grace this year as we try to find our footing. And I'm sure at some point, once the dust settles a little bit, we'll be able to do the things you really need to do to support your student. Ms. Mooney-Chavez, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I just concur. I do want to let you all know we are still doing the same counseling services we've always been doing. It just may look a little different. Timelines may be a little bit shifted. So we will, though, for seniors, we will be reaching out and sending graduation plans and needs. We do encourage those students to review their transcripts and do self-audits. You can actually ask us for copies of your transcript. I'm going to also see if we can get them back into Power School. They used to be in scanned documents. So I think once the schedule change windows end, we're able to then upload those transcripts. I know I've been getting some requests already from some seniors, but that's, especially when we have, we have about 20 new seniors we're getting. So we just want to make sure that we don't miss anybody. We will also start our senior meetings in early October. That organizing that, we were discussing it today. So that rollout is going to be a little different, but you will get information about that to be forthcoming. We also need to depend more, just because of the volume of students that we have now, just more of those kind of like we used to do them, but I want to bring them back, those kind of or we as a department want to bring them back, those college drop-in groups. So help with the Common App, any questions, because if your senior is stressing out about something, maybe somebody else has the same question. So it's just working smarter this time around. And obviously, not only it's about getting them across that stage of graduation, but it's also about the next steps. So whether it's a 2-year school, 4-year school, vocational, any of that, the options, gap year, we are here to support your students. I wanted to just add a slide here of this presentation. We've been running it for a while, but a very common question and point of stress for seniors and their parents is, there's all these different platforms. What the heck do they do? How are they connected? What's one over the other? So I tried, and this is really like the Reader's Digest version, to list the heavy hitter platforms here, commonly used, and what they do and how they're different. So Common Application, that is where your student will actually apply to college, right? It opened August 1st. That is where most of your college applications will be housed. And obviously there are some schools that don't use it, not a lot, but that might be they go to the college website, or maybe there's another platform they use, but Common App is the most common one. It's important to note that we do not have access to this. So when a student says, oh, well, you know where I'm applying, it's on my Common App. No, I don't. Okay, because I can't see it. But this is where the student will do the application and also do the writing. So the college essay, those other statements that they have to do as well. The score is where we will also, like, that is a place where they will communicate to us where they're actually applying. So they can say, okay, I'm applying to Northwestern, and they're going to put on a Common App, they're going to submit the application, then they're going to use score to tell us that they applied to Northwestern, and then by what deadline, and then we send those supporting documents via score. So we send the letters of recommendation and the transcript. Okay. So Common App and score do not talk to each other. So that is also another misconception. So that's why whatever your student is doing in Common App, it needs to be on score as well, where they're applying. And even if they're not using Common App, any college they are applying to needs to be in score. College Board and ACT, this is a platform that has to do with registering for the SAT or ACT or even the AP exams and whatnot. Those will also be the platforms where then you will get your scores and ask that your scores be sent to colleges. Very important to note that we do not do this as a high school, so it is on the students and parents' responsibility to not only register for the exam, but then decide whether or not they're going to submit the exam scores as well. FAFSA, that is the federal application to see if you're eligible for any kind of financial aid for college. There's also the CSS profile, which is another financial form that some colleges ask for. So that is just the money platform. Okay. The SRAR is one that we kind of haven't really touched on in senior presentations, and I'm noticing we should more because it's getting a little confusing. Everyone's like, oh, I thought I was done, and then they find about the SRAR. SRAR, self-reported academic record. Not all schools require this. I know the big rah-rah state schools like to use it. Rutgers, for one, for example, Pitt. What's good about it is once you do it, and basically essentially all it is the student will put what courses and grades that they got for a year per year. But once you do it once, it then will be applied to any other college that requires it. So if I do it for Pitt, and I'm also applying for Rutgers, I don't have to do another one again. So it will be kind of universal there. So I just wanted to touch on those major platforms. I know it's a lot. We are here for you, but this might just be like a quick kind of slide to reference. So Mr. Clyburn, I'm going to now throw it back to you so you can kind of let the parents know and talk a little bit about SCORE and what it looks like and why we would be using it and that sort of thing.
Thank you, Ms. Moni Chavez. Okay, so in SCORE, one of the things that students will be seeing is the My Colleges page. And so the My Colleges page is very important in SCORE for the student and for the counselor, in that it allows the student to be able to keep track of the schools that they're interested in. So if there is a school that a student is interested in as they're looking at the school's page on SCORE, they can click where it says follow. And just like the social media savvy students that they are, they know that it's a place where that particular school's information can be warehoused, so it can be easily referenced a little bit later on. The other great thing is that it allows them to be organized with regard to letting us know where they are applying. So once a student knows for sure that they're applying to a particular school, they will either drag that, if that school is a school that they're following, they can drag it over to applying, or if it's not in the following column, there is a box up top where they can just text box, they can type it in and the school will show up. So for us, it allows us to know when a student is applying to a particular school. and more specifically, a student's earliest deadline. So what we ask is that if there are schools that a student knows for sure, for certain, that they're applying to, that they put it in the applying column as early as possible, because it allows us to be able to do some planning with regard to letters of recommendations and things like that. And then once a student submits their application, whether it's through the Common App or the Coalition or through the school's website, once they do that, then they are going to drag that school over to Applied. And that's when we know that they've officially submitted the application, and then we know that we can go ahead and send the transcripts and other supporting documents to support the student's application. So rule of thumb, at the very least, it should be 2 weeks before the deadline. So for instance, if the deadline is November 1st, a student really should have that information in applying no later than 15th, so that is the October 15th, so that it signals to us when we have to, when we can expect that the student's going to apply. One of the other things that SCORE is really good about is helping a student to sort of figure out the schools that they plan to apply to and how they fall in terms of competitiveness. So there are 3 different, what I like to call buckets when I meet with students that a school will go into. So there are some schools that we call, we used to call reach schools, but I call them like competitive or competitive reach schools. And those are schools where, depending on the student's information, their GPA and their test score, should they submit them, is this a school for them that falls in the 50th percentile in terms of like, is it a school that kind of fits the bill in terms of like their GPA and their test scores fall like right in that like median of students' stats that the school generally will accept. So and actually that, so the reach is, if it's like, if a student falls like sort of below that like 50th percentile and we're like in the 30s, 30 percentile, 20 percentile, then that would be considered a reach school. So it doesn't mean that a student should not apply to a reach school. What it means is we want to make sure that students have diversity with regard to their college application. So for instance, if a student is applying to 12 schools, let's say, as an average, we want to make sure that, not all 12 of those schools are competitive reach schools. We want to make sure that some schools fall in the level category, which is in that 50%. And we want to make sure that students have some, what we call likely schools. And those are schools where a student may fall in the 70th, 80th percentile, where they have a high probability of getting in. So the goal is, to have a diverse list. The goal is to have students have schools that are a good fit, that they feel like are a good fit for them, not just academically, but socially, environmentally, and things like that. So that way, when the decision letters start to come in, they have some options to choose from. And so the grid and SCORE helps students to be able to figure out, is this a reach school for me? Is this a level school for me? Is this a likely school for me? And these are conversations that your student's counselor will have when we meet and we look at the student's list and we try to figure out what's what. All right, so as Ms. Mooney Chavez mentioned earlier, for the most part, there are about 4 major applications that a student can choose to complete their application, the college's application with, and it really depends on the school. So the Common App is the application that many schools belong to. So it's, I would say, if your student is applying to more than a few schools, very high probability that they're going to be doing the Common App. And for students who are, for parents who are new to this process and students who are new to this process, it is a platform that allows students to be able to apply to multiple schools using that one platform. So that's the Common App. The Coalition application operates much the same way. There are schools, not as many schools belong to the Coalition application. So whether your student will do the Coalition application really will depend on what schools they're applying to. And there are some schools that will take the common application or the coalition application. And so in that case, I would say for most students, if they have a choice, you want to lean towards the common app since a lot more other schools belong to the common app. But in some cases, students may have to do the coalition application. For students who are interested in HBCUs, historically Black colleges and universities, there is what's called the Common Black College application, which functions very much so like the Common App and the Coalition, in that it allows you to apply to multiple schools using that platform. And the great thing is, in terms of the application fee, it's a very low fee to be able to use the Common Black application. And then the last thing is some schools don't belong to any of those, and they have their own application on their own website. So like, I believe Georgetown is one of those schools. I believe the University of California schools are like that. So in that case, you'd have to do their specific application. Okay, so a lot of the things that we'll talk about in the senior meeting will depend on obviously schools that students are interested in. And then as a part of those conversations, deadlines. So two of the most common deadlines that students have are what's called early action and early decision. And so the difference between early action and early decision is where a student has a school that for them is like their far and away number one choice. This is the school that I'm really interested in. If they accept me, I for certain want to attend. Early decision schools are schools that if you apply early decision, it is a binding agreement. So what that means is when we sit down to do the senior meeting, if you have an early decision school, we're going to talk about what that means. There is an early decision agreement that you have to sign. The parent has to sign, the student has to sign, a counselor has to sign. And what that basically means is that we all understand what, that is, it's a binding process. So it should be a school that a student far and away is their number one choice. It should also be a school that that family has talked about as being financially feasible to apply. So if either one of those two aren't necessarily set, then those are conversations that as a family you can have, and certainly as a counselor we can help out with that. One of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing is for timelines, because obviously, so senior year is the most, I would say, the busiest year for, I would say, from August or September to like around February, March. It's going to be probably the busiest year that your student will have experienced so far with senior activities, with schoolwork, with homework, with the college application process. So it's really important that the student is realistic about when they would like to apply to school. So for a lot of students, I know that we talked about in the summer, starting in August and making sure that you started applications and starting rough drafts of essays. This process is going to come at them quickly. So I would say if your student has not had a conversation yet about that, it might be time to start to have those conversations and really try to map out, like, particularly for students that are applying early, like October 15th, November 1st, November 15th, like, okay, what is it going to take for me to be able to get done and balance all my other things? And then like really stick to that timeline. The biggest time commitment are the essays. The essays are the students' opportunity to, because the students, the colleges are going to receive the transcript, they're going to receive the other supporting documents, but what your student, what your student is like as a person, their ideals, how they view the world, it really comes across in the essay. It really gives the student the opportunity at this point to sort of brag about themselves. And, we always like, oh, don't brag about yourself. You got to be modest. But this is the time where students have to kind of toot their own horn and talk about their accomplishments, talk about their struggles and how they've overcome them, talk about their hopes and their dreams and how they view life and things like that. Because when people are looking at lots of students with excellent grades and excellent activities, they want to be able to see who fits into my community the best, who's going to bring something to my community. So the essay helps the reader to be able to ascertain, among other things, like how the student's going to fit into their environment. Okay, so there are generally a couple of different types of essays. So particularly in the Common App, the Common App has a standard essay where you have a few topics to choose from, and the student can write on that particular topic. And if there is a topic that the student is not really fond of, but if they have their own essay that they've started to craft over the summer and maybe last year, the Common App does allow for a student to sort of submit their own essay. And that essay is going to be something that goes to all the schools in Common App that your student applies to. The other essay is something called the supplemental essay. And so what the supplemental essay is very specific to the particular school that a student is applying to. So instead of having just that standard essay, the College of New Jersey or NYU or whoever is in the Common App, they may have like specific questions that they want their students to answer. And so the student will have to also craft an essay for those particular supplemental essays. One of the other things that students have to do is the FERPA release authorization. So what that is it stands for Family Educational Rights and Protection Act. And basically, when a student waives their FERPA, so there's a couple things. Students have to give us permission to be able to send supporting documents to the colleges. So like your transcript, your letters of recommendation, and things like that. So you have to waive, you have to allow us to be able to send that information. The other thing is we have something called the FERPA release where so basically the student has the right to waive the right to be able to view their letter of recommendation. They also have the ability to not waive, right? And so we always recommend that students waive. Colleges, if they notice that a student has not waived their right to be able to view their letters of recommendation, they might question I'm trying to think of the word, not the authenticity, but like the, I can't think of the word, but if I'm a college representative and if I know that the student can read their essays, I may wonder, well, is the essay that their counselor wrote or the essay that their teacher wrote, is it really authentic? Is it really how they really view the student, or are they crafting it because they know that the student can be able to look at it? So it's very important to the process to be able to speak authentically and to be able to speak frankly about a student. So you always want to make sure that you waive the FERPA authorization. One of the other things in terms of, if I'm remembering correctly, with advisors, since we have SCORE as a platform, we don't generally send our letters of recommendation, meaning counselors, through the Common App, like some other schools might that don't have a platform. We send ours directly through SCORE. So one of the things that we'll talk about is when you have to put like a recommender, for the most part, you're just going to put the name of the teacher or the counselor, but you don't have to put an email address. Because what's going to happen is if you put the email address, we're going to get the alert, but for the most part, we'll ignore it because we're going to send everything through SCORE. So we don't send anything through the Common App platform or through the coalition platform.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clyburn. Okay, so we're going to shift gears now. Mr. Clyburn went over, the Common App and how we can use SCORE to kind of organize the colleges and whatnot. I'm going to now pivot to those supporting documents that are required. Obviously, the application and the essay and the supplements, that's on your senior to do, but there are other pieces that you're relying on others in terms of completing this college application package. So let's start with the counselor letter of rec. So the counselor letter of rec is guaranteed. Your senior does not have to ask us. We will write you one no matter what. Okay. I know there's probably some questions. Well, what about, if you're new to my senior, or what about, did Ms. Cortez or Ms. Johnson write any letters? So I do know that Johnson and Cortez wrote letters for those students that had surveys completed. I believe they sent messaging maybe towards the end of the year last year, say, hey, you know, I'll write you letters, just please have this done. So those letters are uploaded into SCORE. We've also got, you know, like a drive left behind so we can search for all that. If there is no letter for your senior and you have a new counselor this year, it will be okay. We will write the letter for your senior. And you probably think, well, how are you going to write a letter? You don't know them. Well, my first year at Columbia, I had 70 new seniors. I had no idea who they were. That is why we rely so heavily on not only the senior meetings that we do at the jump of the year, but also these surveys, not only the student surveys, but there's a parent survey for you all to fill out also for us. So we kind of use that trifecta of our time, whether it's been 1, 2, 3 years, you know, with the student, and what the student says about themselves. But they tend to be a little humble. There's something really beautiful about the way a parent speaks about a senior, and it's really enjoyable to read. So we do read them, we do lean on them, and we use our own time with them. So do not stress about that. There, if you didn't get an invite from SCORE, and I've gotten a lot of emails from my parents over the last few weeks, the counselors can send an invite to you, the parent. You need to activate it within 72 hours. There's also like an importance of like the student has to kind of like acknowledge you as a parent, or the student has to have accepted an invite as well also. So if you're running into any technical support, do not stress. support@score.com. They are amazing. You can email them. I also found last night this awesome, it's a 13 pager, but don't worry, because it's really big font and graphics and all that. So it was a quick read, but it was very just kind of like, oh, hey, here's what I need. And it was easy to navigate. So I am going to put that in the chat once I have access to it, because I realize I do not have access to the chat. So I apologize about that. And we're also going to post it on the accounting website. And yeah, Mr. Clyburn, if you're able, because this is the first time I have it set up this way, where I'm the presenter with the screen, but I can't chat at the same time. Usually I'm always able to do both. I probably am, you know, messed it up. So if you're able to enter the chat, great.
Yep.
If not,
Yep.
our IT person and Ms. Morrison chimed in also. We can memorialize these questions and we will get responses back to you. Also, we do have a last slide, like maybe 10 minutes, we do a Q&A. So we'll be able to kind of stop the presentation and scan for questions there as well, okay? So in terms of requesting a transcript, there's no transcript request button. What the most important thing that your senior needs to do is in SCORE, under that My Colleges section, if you remember, Mr. Clyburn showed you the visual with the 3 columns. That first column is like, hey, I'm thinking about it. The second column is, hey, I'm actually applying to these schools. So that's the applying column. And then the third column, I like to call it the done bucket. That's where, hey, I know I finished this application, boom, let me move it over there. So in order for us to send transcripts to the colleges, one, they must be on SCORE. Okay, because remember I said we can't see Common App. So they have to not only be in SCORE, they have to be in applying or applied. That gives us the green light to send not only the transcript, but the letters of recommendation that we write, and also that the teachers write as well. Okay. There are some colleges, like I said, those big rah-rah schools, they may require an additional SRAR. So they actually just like use that. We may send the transcript and SCORE just as like a double kill. You know, sometimes, you know, we just kind of like, we rather send too much than not enough. And then even sometimes certain schools in Common App will ask the student to break down their courses and grades. So it can be tedious. So again, that's why we're really excited to have these drop-in sessions, maybe 9th period, or maybe during like lunch periods if a student doesn't have a 9th grade, where they can come in and have time just to do all this. Okay. And again, you definitely want to request transcripts and letters at least 2 weeks prior to deadlines. Okay. So now on to teacher letters of recommendation. We kind of, you know, say, hey, go in person first, ask. We encourage our juniors to do it like towards the end of the year. Teachers kind of have their own thing going, because, you know, we have certain teachers that are super popular. So they may say, no, don't come to me in June, come to me at the jump of the year. And then some teachers say, hey, you know what? I already said yes to 50. That's my max. So we really want to catch the teacher. If you haven't already, please do it now in person. If they agree, and I'll show you in the next slide, there will be actually like a button that the students do have to request the teacher letter. So there is not a button for counselors. There is a button for teachers. So that's a big distinction. Okay. A third thing that is also part of this is they do have to do the survey. So a common misconception, our students will fill out a teacher's survey, a questionnaire, and they think, okay, boom, that's it. That's me asking. Everything's going to be fine. No, the survey for the teacher is kind of like the pre-writing. It's like the pre-step. So you ask in person. Yes, Mr. Borkowski said, of course, I'll write your letter. We are going to do his survey and score, and then we're going to formally request him on score with a press of a button that I'll show you in a second. Okay. If you do not see a teacher in score, please let your counselor know. That's just some kind of like logistical thing. It is possible that there is a teacher or two that say, nope, I'm not using score. Don't trust it. That's okay. Basically, especially now, we used to do like, snail mail. The college will accept the letter from the teacher, like PDF, email, right? Or sometimes the teacher will give it to me and I will send it to them. We will get the letters to the colleges. Okay. I don't want anyone to stress about that. Again, just like the transcripts, you want to make sure you have like a 2-week buffer deadline before your earliest deadline. So here's what the interface looks like, is those 3 buckets that I was saying before. Above the applied bucket, you'll see a blue application document hyperlink. That is the button. And again, this is all in My Colleges and Score. That's where most of the work of your senior will do this year. That hitting that application document will cause a pop-up box, and that's where the student can go ahead and request a recommendation. Your students probably will be blank, so this is just a sample one, but once they request a recommendation, the teacher's name will pop up, and that's how you can request. And you'll notice these are green. So Score also tells you the status. So if a letter is being worked on, if it was sent, that's all something that your student can check on their own. Okay. All right. So we went over the transcript and applying, requesting transcripts and letters. There's some special programs. EOF, if you are, in financial need, free and reduced loan students usually are eligible for this. So this is a way for schools in New Jersey. It just kind of levels the playing field. It's a way to get a little bit of extra money for college. It's a way, hey, I'm applying to Rutgers and they really want me to have a 3.5, but if I apply EOF, hey, they may take me with like a 3.0 or something like that. You would, students accepted into the EOF program will have to do a summer class usually, and maybe maintain a certain GPA to stay in. For our athletes, this is really important because this causes us a lot of, but Mr. Kleinberg is our expert in NCAA. So all NCAA questions go to Mr. Brian Kleinberg. But you will have to register, your senior will have to register through the NCAA clearinghouse. We do send a final transcript to the NCAA clearinghouse as well at the end of the year. Okay. One thing about letters of rec also, I want to mention, if your student has a kind of non-teacher or non-counselor person that would write them a letter of recommendation, like a coach, a boss, a pastor or something, that is okay. It's really important though to go on the college website under admissions and just see, hey, how many letters will my college take? Some take, hey, we'll only read 1, or hey, we'll take up to 3. So it definitely doesn't hurt the application process, but that's something that you'd want to go onto the college website to check out. We can send those letters for those students. So I know those third-party vendors. So like I know I've sent a lot of letters for youth group leaders and whatnot. They basically, those kind of character reference letters essentially is what they are. You can tell your senior, or we will tell your senior to share our email with that person writing your letter. They send us the letter. We can actually upload it into Score and send it on their behalf. Okay. And again, that's a non-teacher letter. That's a non-counselor letter. They're 2 different things. It would just kind of be like a letter of reference if your college accepts it. So moving on to the different timelines in which your senior can apply to school. So August 1st kind of began the official season. We have our early bird specials. So early decision, early action, those are due around the same time. So we're talking about November 1, November 15th. Some of our southern schools, UNC, Chapel Hill, yay, South Carolina, are as early as October 15th. Okay, so that is coming up. All right. Restrictive early action, that's usually for like almost like Ivies, like Princeton. So they'll say, hey, you can apply to us early action, but you can't apply to any other Ivies early action. So that's what that means, restrictive early action. So what's the difference? This causes a lot of confusion between early action and early decision. So while both of them have the same deadline, the impact is quite different. So early decision is a binding contract. We call this ED, as it's better known as. Okay, early decision means, hey, I want to get into Northeastern. I don't even know if Northeastern has ED. It's my memory is mush right now. But I'm applying their ED. It means if I get in, I have to go. Okay. There may be some wiggle room out of that contract, but you probably have to show everything financially and blood and everything that they're going to ask of you to get out of it. So this is something very serious. We want to make sure that the students know that. So why would I apply early decision? Because that sounds very scary. If I get in, I have to go. They do say that the acceptance rate of the early decision pool is double that of the regular pool. I know there's a lot of swirly rumors. Well, it depends, if we need financial aid or not. So that we can't really speak to, but there will be a financial presentation on October 14th. So the specifics around that will be forthcoming. So we encourage you to attend that. The guy's great. We've been using him for a while. So early action also has the same deadline, but it's non-binding. So the student does not have to go if they get in. Okay. Rolling is such a wonderful way to apply to school. We like to encourage at least one school to be rolling on your list. Why is it so awesome? Basically, starting August 1st, as soon, like Pitt is very popular, and as soon as the college gets all your stuff, they can get back to you in a few weeks. Okay. So rather than these early decision or these regular decision, they will not even, you can apply in August, but they might not even look at you until November 1, where rolling is like, hey, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep taking people until we're full. So that's just like a nice way to and this helps us even if for our students that don't get into places where they thought they were going to get in and they're panicking, having those rolling deadlines are really helpful. And then there's regular. So that's just a good old fashioned, hey, January 1, everything's due. For February, March in Jersey, we sometimes have those later ones. And at Rutgers, they're as early as December 1st. So that also comes up very quick. So with the early decision, early action schools, you hear back around the holidays, and then with the regular decision, you hear back around like April. It's weird, it seems to keep getting later and later. So we've been noticing that, but that's kind of the general consensus around there. Moving on to another piece of the college application process is the standardized test scores. Brian talked about the application and the essays, and I talked about the letters, a counselor letter, teacher letter, and then I also talked about the transcript. So the test scores can also be a part of the application package. It does not have to be. We are still in the kind of post-COVID murkiness where many schools are remaining to be test optional. It is the student's responsibility to go on that college admission website can't be more important. That's going to tell you everything. It's going to tell you if they have early decision or not, how many letters they'll take, what's their testing policy, if they want you to have 4 years of a world language and you're trying to get out of it senior year. So that's really why I deter my students all the time to that college admission website. But if you do decide to report your SAT or ACT, the student has to go on the actual website and do that. The counselors do not have access to that. We do not do that for you. And again, keep that 2-week buffer in mind. So 2 weeks before your deadline for the letters, 2 weeks for the transcripts, and 2 weeks for the test scores as well. Okay. And again, double check your college policies. I have SuperScore on here. If we are a first time senior parent, SuperScore basically, hey, I took the SATs in August, and in math, I did awesome, but I didn't do too great in reading. And I'm going to take it again in September. And oh wow, I did better this time on my reading. So super scoring means you could submit both the August and September scores to the colleges, and the college will take the best of your best and use that as their combined score. Okay. Self-reported test scores is another popular trend. Basically what this means is, and you'll know, the student will know if a college accepts self-reported scores because it will be in the Common App. It will be an option to put it there. It's basically saying, hey, listen, put what you got on the ACT or SAT, and we'll basically just do the honor policy. All right. Now, if they decide to admit you, or they're serious about you, then they may reach out and say, okay, great. Now we're going to actually ask for an official score report. And they do this because it costs money, right? It costs money to do the applications. It costs money to send scores. So if a student is applying to a school and does not have the scores to cut it, they don't, they can tell you right away, like, nope, you're not getting it with a score. So that's where the self-reported score policy comes in helpful. And again, as I mentioned, many schools are still test optional, and we even have some test blind schools out in California. So you can visit fairtest.org to get the comprehensive list of test optional. Okay. And then basically, okay, so we know about the timelines. We know about the moving pieces involved. Now let's talk about the outcomes. So the black and white of it, I get accepted or I get denied, but there's also some gray area as well. And this is very common, not talked about enough. So when it does happen, I know it burns for a lot of our students, but being deferred means that I applied early action or early decision. And you know what? Those are usually the most competitive students with the strongest GPAs and test scores and whatnot. And they just didn't say yes to me right away, but they didn't want to put me out either. So they're just going to put a pin in me for now. Okay. And what they're going to do is they're going to look at me again with the regular decision pool. I may shine a little brighter in that pool, or maybe I've had some time that I have all this cool stuff that I did that I didn't get to capture in my initial application in the fall when I did early, or, hey, look at my grades now. I'm going to show you my mid-year transcript and maybe my grades went up. So maybe if you were on the fence about me being deferred, I might be able to send you some things to convince you. Again, I will say it definitely have a plan B if you are deferred or waitlisted, which we'll get to in a minute, because it's not guaranteed that they'll take you. And also colleges are very specific what they want a deferred student to do. So everyone says, oh, get more letters, write more essays. Not necessarily the case. Okay. They want new information. All right. So just be sure that you're a senior if this happens. They have they're reading the directions carefully. Being waitlisted, the same idea as deferred, but instead of with the early pool, it's with the regular decision timeline. So this is where, hey, if I apply in January, I might find I'm waitlisted, but then I might not find that. So they're basically the waitlisted outcome. They're basically seeing who commits to them by the National College Commitment Day of May 1st. So if the school, if Northeastern says, oh man, we don't have as many commits as we thought, then they may reach out to the waitlist and say, hey, if you're still interested, we want you. Okay. Again, I've seen some people find out the last day of school that they got in a place. So just kind of be prepared for those different outcomes. This slide is about the financial aid form, the FAFSA. That's the federal one. That's free. CSS profile, that is not free. I think it's like 30-something bucks. It's a more forensic, detailed questionnaire. And this is because only certain colleges require it. And it's usually colleges that have more they're more prestigious and selective, so they have more private and donor endowments to dish out. So you may be, as a family, ineligible for any free federal funding through the FAFSA, but eligible for some free monies to the CSS profile. We will definitely submit forthcoming information. We know last year they changed the FAFSA, so the deadlines were a little wonky. They did change. It has been October 1st for these two financial forms. I need to just touch base to see if that has changed at all since the new FAFSA and the issues that they ran into last year. But I will say new for this class of 2025, the state of New Jersey is making FAFSA completion a graduation requirement. I'll be honest, I don't know how this is going to shake out or play down, but we will, of course, submit to you all information as we receive it and becomes forthcoming. Okay. So, this is all to say, it's a lot. I know it's a lot. We are here for your students. We know this jump off was rocky. We know we inherited something we did not create. We care about your kids. We want what's best for them. So we need to say that out loud several times, and we will keep saying it. We will be there for them. Okay. It may look a little different, but what we're doing will not change. All right. So I'm gonna just stop sharing this and hop over. I know we were supposed to end at 8, so the Q&A, is a little bit short. But I don't let me pop over. See if there's any.
I've been answering some things in the
Sure,
chat.
great.
Not every question.
Great. A great question here. The letter of rec issues with the teacher contracts. Okay, I knew this was going to be a hot one tonight. So I will say that teachers have always written letters on a voluntary basis. Okay, that's always the case. We have had this situation a few years back. We got through it. As this happens in other districts, and we pledge that if something happens where a student can't get a letter because the teacher just says, hey, you know what, we don't have a contract, we can't do any extra work, we have something that we can prepare to send to the colleges to let them know of the current situation, and then a letter will be maybe not on time, but will be forthcoming. Colleges just really love having context and understanding what's going on. So as counselors and students, we advocate the same, but we constantly are in conversations with colleges. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay. Where in SCORE do I find the parent survey? I know that's a popular one. I know when you log in on the top right hand corner, there's kind of like a little drop down, and that's where the surveys should be. But if you're having any issues, support@score.com? Yeah, and it's also will be in the presentation where you can go ahead.
They're very responsive.
Yeah, and they're great. Yeah, and there's tons of stuff online also. Okay.
It says, where exactly is the button for students to click which notifies their teachers that they're seeking their recommendation? So if students are in their SCORE, at the top right, they have to go to My Colleges, and when they open that page, at the very top right of that, it says, what is it? I'm blanking on the word, but I can't think of the word. Miss Mooney Chavez, can you think? Application documents. That's what it is.
Okay. Yep. Sorry, I'm reading the chat.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So you click application documents, and once you do that, at the very bottom, there's going to be a button where it says request teacher letter recommendation. So the student hits that button, a drop-down menu comes. It allows the student to type in the teacher's name. Once they do that, they have to indicate, is this letter of recommendation going to go to every school? Is it going to go to certain schools? Most students have their application go to all schools. So for most students, they'll click that button, and then another box will open up where it's that the student has to type a message. So I always recommend that the students just type a thank you message for writing the letter of recommendation. And then when they do that and they click the submit button, now this gives the teacher the notification that once the student has talked to the teacher and the teacher has agreed, they get that indication that the student has requested it. And then now it gives them the ability to upload that letter into SCORE for the student.
Okay. I did see a comment about the schedules and not meeting graduation requirements. Because we have new seniors, we are in the process of doing deep audits of all of our seniors. Okay. So that's part of our job. And we make sure that they have everything they need. If for whatever reason a senior does not, we get it in. We don't, even if it's full or what, we go to admin and say, this has to happen. We need to figure it out. Okay. There should never be a time or a reason why a student doesn't graduate because the schedule didn't work. Like that's not, we need to just figure it out. So that's something that's happened in the past. And, yeah, they need to, there's no, oh, sorry, the schedule sucked this year. No, we will get it in. Okay. Who is the replacement counselor for Miss Cortez's students? She was not replaced. So her caseload was redistributed between the 10 through 12 counselors. But again, I know there's so many questions that we didn't answer because I didn't have access, but we definitely will memorialize the chat. I checked, we have that access and we'll be answering these, okay? Anything else? Confirming when the senior meeting is starting early October. So we will have some kind of way that we're trying to like figure out the best way to roll out the sign out. Obviously, if you're senior, I will say this: if they have a early deadline, please get them in. You know, those are who we're prioritizing.
So there's the question about where do we find the dates that colleges are coming to visit CHS? So that information is generally in SCORE. If the student looks in their SCORE account, there should be a calendar. I believe it's on the right. If they open the calendar, generally the dates for the college visits are there. And so generally the student can sign up right through that calendar. And then what happens is, obviously, if it's during the student's lunch period, or if it's during like period 9 or something like that, then whenever the visit is and the student just shows up. Usually if it's like during a class, I don't know if we're going to do it the same way this year, but in the past, like Ms. Petrosha usually will have, she'll write out passes and the student will have to show the pass. And then what happens is when the student comes down, we have a sign-up sheet, and then that's how we, make sure that students are accounted for so that they don't receive a cut for that particular period.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and just answering some, yes, this presentation is recorded and will be posted. The GPA updated in SCORE, that's a great question. That's definitely one of our immediate to-dos. Unfortunately, our person who did all this stuff is no longer here, so we have to calibrate and dish out. So we know that is something that needs to be done ASAP. The dates for when college visits are coming. That's a great question. That is actually on SCORE as well. And it's also posted on our counseling website. So if a student is interested in we had Chicago here today, they can sign up through SCORE. There'll be passes for them posted outside and all that. All the dates are on the counseling website. They have a pass, they check in with their teacher, and we give them an activity code so that it doesn't count as an absence. But that's a great question. Yeah, and that's why, like, I'm seeing a lot of like techie SCORE parent survey stuff. Please throw them in the chat. Send them to the counselors, because it may be something technical on our side. Again, when the person who does the stuff isn't here, we need to know because we just might not know that there's an issue. So that's why it's really important to communicate stuff for us. Great question about GPAs. They are weighted off of a 5.0. That's a very common question we get because Common App does ask it. No, we no longer rank. Okay. School profile, that's another great question. We are in the process of updating. We will be posting that. I don't know if we post, I think we post on the website. Yeah. And then we actually upload it into SCORE so we can send it to with the colleges, because some of the colleges do require that.
One of the questions I'm seeing is, how will I know if my student completed the NJGPA requirements? Generally, we do that as a part of the audit. And so a lot of times we will go over that information in the senior meeting.
Okay. And I'm getting the question, and Ms. Morrison shared stuff with us earlier, so we're working through that regarding the test scores and all that good stuff. How many seniors in the class of 2025? It was like 460 or something. It's fluid, but you can email the counselor if you want to know for sure, because I know that's also a piece of the questions that Common App asks for. Again, we do not rank, so that's important to know. If you want to know, great question, because I answered this like an hour before I jumped on a meeting. If you want to know if you had Cortez or Johnson and you want to know if that letter is in fact in your SCORE, your senior SCORE account, reach out to their current counselor and we'll be able to check that for you. Okay. And there is actually, as I said, once your senior applies, and under the, that page, My Colleges, where it's got the 3 columns and it's under applied, let's say they finish their Bucknell application. When they click on Bucknell and scroll down, you can actually see the activity, like letter sent on this day, transcript sent on this day. So that's a way to keep us in check as well.
Are the colleges invited by CHS or do they ask to come? So generally, we have a function, I believe, in SCORE where we have a calendar where the colleges and universities can sign up on their own, depending on when they're available and the calendar that we put out. And so yeah, they have free reign to be able to sign up within the context of our calendar.
Okay. Again, that transcript is a popular question. You can ask for transcripts right now from us. I want to get it back where the students have it under scanned documents, because it will just, that way you don't have to wait on us. You guys have it. But for right now, but I think they have to upload that in a batch. And I know he's not going to upload it now anyway, because schedules are still changing. So for right now, you can email the counselor. Great question. Do we all have like calendar appointments, that you can book? That's what we've done in the past for senior meetings. We may revisit that. I think we're still trying to figure out the volume and how this is going to work, but there will be a communication forthcoming about exactly when senior meetings start, how your senior can sign up. Okay.
Will counselors send mid-year progress report? So generally what we normally do is a little bit before Q2 grades are finalized, we usually send out a Google form where we ask students to, if they would like mid-year grades to be sent, to list the schools that they want them to be sent to. And then once Q2 grades are finalized and we've done some final checking of things, then we send out to those schools.
Yeah, and I would say if you already have a SCORE account, I know sometimes it happens where like people will make a separate SCORE account that's not linked to the school, and that kind of messes us up. So if you're running into any of the, I would go right to the horse's mouth on that one and go to SCORE support. Yeah, so I'm seeing a common thread. So this is something I'm going to write down. The parent survey. I wonder if there's something turned off for some, or because I'm seeing a lot of comment. Hey, I'm not seeing my survey. I'm seeing it for like this older sibling or something. So we'll look into that. We can reach out to SCORE for you guys. Okay.
All right.
Yes, GPA weighted off of a 5.0. Great question. Should recommendations letters be from core teachers or elective teachers? Can they write them? That, again, I'm going to ask you to have your senior look on that college admission webpage, because some, and maybe some more of the like elite, competitive schools might have, oh no, they need to be from core. But if there is no disclaimer, another good rule, like for me, what I always kind of tell my students, ask the admission rep. Reach out and say, hey, I'm so, you look like you're excited and you want to do the right thing. There's no harm in reaching out to admission rep and kind of ask those questions. Okay. But we've had that in the past where art teachers or, that kind of thing have written letters. Yes, I am going to paste something for you now that I have access. This was something, it's like, we're going to put it on the website too. But this was just, it's actually like a Google Doc. It was a PDF that I opened with a Google Doc, but I just found it was, I just found it was helpful. It just had a lot of the, what to do, where to go, and all that good stuff. If you go in Power School, if you had Miss Johnson or Miss Cortez last year and you go in Power School, your new counselor is there. Okay. And yeah, what would be a good idea if you're having SCORE parent issues emailing the counselor or emailing, like have an email with the counselor on it and also score support is helpful, because sometimes I've logged in to a student and I have this weird thing that says like link student not linked to parent, send invite, you know, so it's something that we might be able to access. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, guys. So I am an old millennial and I'm not as tech savvy. Obviously, I didn't share the presentation at first and no one said anything, so I'm sitting there like. So what I will do is I will commit to putting this on the counseling website. Yeah, because I put it in Google Doc thinking I was cute, and now I need permission and everything like that. So the name of the counselor is, I don't know if you can see the schedule or something. It should be there. Score support email that I can type up and not mess up.
We just want to be mindful of the time.
Sure. That will be my last thing I do, since it's an important one. Okay. And then a great question: do parents need their own FAFSA account, or is it just the student? So the student will create the FAFSA, and then there'll be a parent section to that. The parent will have like a ID, FSA ID, like a way to electronically sign. Okay.
The parent has to.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you all for coming so much. I don't want to hold. I know we've run over a little bit. I do appreciate your patience with our awesome techiness as well. So thank you, Mr. Clyburn, Ms. Morrison, and Mr. Bonds also for helping us out. Okay. Here's to a great year. Okay. Glass half full.
Take care.